In a forgotten corner of the city, tucked away from the sun-drenched avenues and bustling squares, lived a painter named Silas. But Silas was no ordinary artist. He didn't work with vibrant oils or delicate watercolors. His palette was the absence of light, his brush a vessel for the ephemeral, and his medium was shadow itself. His studio was a cavern of twilight filled with canvases that held not images but voids. He would venture out at dusk, his eyes scanning for the most interesting silhouettes cast by the setting sun. He'd find the long, elegant shadow of a lone lamppost, the clustered, nervous shadows of pigeons taking flight, or the soft, intimate shadow of a couple holding hands. With a strange, almost magical technique, he would coax the shadows from their surfaces. Passers-by would see him tracing the air with his fingers, a soft gray mist flowing from the ground and onto his canvas. Back in his studio, he would work this captured darkness, shaping it, defining its edges, deepening its core until it was a perfect, silent echo of the object that birthed it. His paintings were mesmerizing. People who saw them felt a profound, quiet melancholy. They saw the ghost of a laughing child, the specter of a windblown tree, the hollow outline of a grand cathedral. His gallery was a world of ghosts, a silent testament to moments just past. Silas became known as the Shadow Whisperer, an artist who painted the soul of emptiness. But with each masterpiece he created, a subtle change was occurring, one that only Silas in his quiet moments began to notice. The world outside his studio seemed to be growing dimmer. The sunsets, which once bled crimson and gold, were now muted, their drama fading into a uniform gray. The corners of his own room, once filled with deep, comforting darkness, were now just flat and dull. The very source of his art was thinning, becoming less potent. At first he dismissed it. Perhaps it was just the changing seasons or the smog from the city's relentless growth. He threw himself into his work with even greater fervor, chasing the fading shadows with a desperate hunger. He painted the shadow of a flying bird, and the next day the skies seemed emptier, the birdsong quieter. He captured the shadow of a blooming rose, and the gardens in the park appeared to wilt overnight, their colors looking washed out and tired. The more he painted, the more the world seemed to lose its depth, its contrast. It was as if he was pulling the very essence of definition out of existence and trapping it on his canvases. The joy he once felt in his unique craft was slowly being replaced by a gnawing unease. His patrons, who once praised the soulful depth of his work, now commented on a certain lifelessness in his new pieces. The shadows he captured were becoming faint, like memories of memories. One evening, as a weak, pale moon rose in the sky, Silas felt a creative block unlike any he had ever known. He roamed the city, but the shadows were weak, almost transparent. The world was becoming a flat, two-dimensional drawing of its former self. Frustrated and weary, he returned to his studio. The silence within was no longer peaceful. It was oppressive. He stood before a large, empty canvas, the last one he owned. He felt a desperate urge to create something, anything, to prove that his power wasn't gone. He looked around the stark room, searching for a subject. His gaze fell upon his own reflection in a dusty pane of glass. He saw a gaunt, tired man, and behind him, cast by the single candle he held, was his own shadow. It was a deep, rich, and complex shadow, full of all the weariness, the ambition, and the creeping fear that defined him. It was the only strong shadow he had seen in weeks. A manic energy seized him. This would be his masterpiece, the shadow of the artist himself. He set the candle down and began his work. His fingers danced in the air, pulling and weaving the darkness from the wall. The process was more intense than ever before. He felt a strange lightness as the shadow flowed from its place, a feeling of being unburdened. He poured all his skill, all his desperation into the canvas. He defined the stoop of his shoulders, the curve of his tired brow, the hollows of his cheeks. He worked through the night, oblivious to the world, to time, to his own exhaustion. Finally, as the first gray hint of dawn filtered through the grimy window, he was finished. He stepped back, his heart pounding with a mix of triumph and dread. On the canvas was the most powerful, most profound shadow he had ever captured. It was perfect. It was him. He turned, expecting to see his faint, real shadow on the wall, but there was nothing. He looked at his hands in the growing light, but they cast no silhouette. He spun around, his movements creating no dark follower on the floor. A cold, terrifying realization washed over him in his desperation to create the ultimate work of art. He had painted the last real shadow in his world his own. He stood in the center of his studio, a man without a shadow in a world without shade. He was a ghost in a ghost world, surrounded by the captured souls of everything that once had depth and form. He reached out to touch his final masterpiece, but his hand felt nothing. He had poured his entire being, his very essence, onto the canvas. And now there was nothing left. The painter who had mastered the art of shadow had become the ultimate victim of his own creation, an empty vessel in a world he had single-handedly drained of its light. He was nothing more than a colorless whisper in an endless, flat, gray void. Thank you so much for watching this story unfold. If you enjoy tales that explore the light and dark sides of creativity, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. We love having you as part of our community. See you in the next one.